Hello, and welcome to RPGMD, a resource dedicated to writing you a prescription on all things dice, dragons, and gaming. Today, we're going to be wrapping up our series on diseases by looking at 7 different creatures that can spread diseases and pestilence among your party. And this is in big thanks to a lot of the community members who have sent me great lists full of different diseases and different disease-causing monsters, and I would not have been able to put this list together without you guys, so thank you so much. Now we're going to be going through these monsters in no specific order, and so do not think that this list is by any means like a top 10, or that I think any one of these diseases is cooler than any of the others, though I guess in theory I do. Additionally, by no means is this list exhaustive. There are a ton of monsters that can cause different ailments and conditions that I didn't necessarily think were appropriate for this video, and nor did I want to rant for about an hour going through every single little bite condition that a creature can inflict on you. But with that, let's dive into our first monster, and it's going to be a classic. Now, our first creature is going to be the giant rat. And what creature screams disease reservoir more than a giant rat? This disease variant can be found on the monster manual on page 327, and while the average giant rat is not something to be too scared of even at low levels with a challenge rating of 1/8 and a max damage of 6, these rodents are known to travel in packs and actually get advantage on any attack roll if an ally, which is probably another rat, is within 5 feet of them. With the disease variant, these guys can actually present a little more of an issue, as it adds on the fun addition of a disease which prevents the target from regaining any hit points by anything but magic spells, and then slowly lowers their maximum hit points every day with the possibility of killing the creature outright. And that's right, no saving throws, no death throws, nothing, if this maximum takes you to 0, which is going to be a common theme as we go through these monsters today. Now, if the bite is not completely cured, I would recommend continuously describing the wound to your players. At first, you should kind of comment that it's kind of red, swollen, even a couple hours after the event. And if it's still not cured, either by a party member or going to a church, start to describe how you can kind of feel air, or what we call crepitus, under the wound. And eventually, it should start slowing the player character down. They should have lower speed and just feel like shit. For extra flavor, I'd recommend definitely making sure you have multiple rats to ensure that they get that advantage on all of their attacks, but also comboing them with either some kind of caster that is either maybe a disease specialist or just a crazy person in the sewer that has really bonded with rats, maybe a druid, just to give, again, a little more flavor and a little more credence as to why these rats are crazy enough to completely swarm and attack a party. Number 2 is going to be rot grubs, and rot grubs are a classic creature in Dungeons & Dragons that appeared all the way back in the first edition in 1977. Now in 5th edition, they can be found on page 208 of Volo's Guide to Monsters, and they are described as a maggot that is about the size of a human finger that will crawl onto people, bite them, burrow into their skin, and then slowly make their way into their heart, where they'll sit there and try eating their heart as they infest the creature. Now, rot grubs actually don't have stats when alone. I'd think of it as you versus a very small little worm, but the rot grub swarm is actually a challenge rating 1/2 creature. And as a swarm creature, the rot grubs can occupy another creature's space and are resistant to both piercing and slashing damage, making them particularly annoying for melee fighters, and they're actually able to move through small openings as they go single file through them. However, this all does come at the price of not being able to regain any hit points or ever getting temporary hit points, as their hit points is kind of based off of their collective entity and not so much they're slowly getting chipped down. You're kind of just slowly killing individual worms. Now, the condition these guys inflict is actually going to be one anytime they do hit with an attack, but that's actually pretty unlikely with these guys, as they have a +0 to attack roll. If they do hit, they do infest the creature, causing it to take damage for every rot grub that's inside of it, and 1d4 of rot grubs are put in every time they succeed on a hit. If this damage causes the player to hit 0, again, they're going to die, no saving throws, no stabilization, dead. Now, curing the rot grub infection is actually my favorite part of all of this, as there's 2 ways to go about it. The boring way, which is anyone can cast Cure Disease and the rot grubs instantly die from the person. Or there's the fun way, which is to apply fire immediately within 1 turn of being bitten to burn the rock grubs away. Now this burn option is very time sensitive, and if it has been more than 1 turn, the rock grubs are too deep and impossible to cut or burn out. Now, if a character is not cured immediately and did not get a chance to burn them away, this is kind of the fun part of the DMing, as you should be able to describe this burrowing and kind of slithering sensation under the character's skin, kind of going deeper and deeper until they can feel it into their heart. Now this isn't a part of the official description, but I'd say that if you have rock grubs literally eating your heart, it should be extremely, extremely difficult to concentrate on casting, and I would give my players disadvantage on any concentration throws from the damage taken from rock grubs literally eating your heart. I'd also describe this pain as a severe stabbing chest pain that makes it incredibly difficult to breathe. Kind of like having a heart attack, but 10 times that. Number 3 is going to be the Rutterkin. And Rutterkin are low-level demons that kind of travel in packs and wander the abyss looking for any non-demons to devour. They're found on page 136 of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and they are challenge rating 2 creature. Now, interestingly about Rutterkin is that their very presence is fearful even to high-level players, and they have to make a wisdom saving throw on just being within 30 feet of them, and that's with disadvantage if there are more than 6 Rutterkin in the pact. Now, like most creatures on this list, the disease is going to be inflicted when the Rutterkin succeeds on its bite attack, and with a +4, it's a lot more likely than the rock worms to happen. Now, when a creature is hit, they must make a Constitution saving throw, or they become poisoned by the bite. Now, unlike the condition poison, the Rutterkin's poison is special in that it has all the effects of the condition poison, which I'll let you look up in the condition section, but also if the target goes to 0 hit points while under the effects of the poison, they instantly die. Again, no saving throws, nothing. Are you sensing a theme here? But also, when this player goes to 0, they transform into a different kind of demon called an Abyssal Wretch. And the authors of this kind of state that this can only be undone by a wish spell. And thus, the Rutterkin not only has the ability to do some serious damage to a low-level party, but can be game-ending for a character, as they could lose their character forever. As I highly doubt a low-level party is going to cart around this Abyssal Wretch that is attacking them the whole time until they get a wish spell, but I've been wrong before. Now, I'd actually be pretty hesitant to introduce these guys into a party that has no way of curing disease, as I feel like having a character transformed into an Abyssal Wretch is a pretty punishing lesson. If you are going to throw this guy in and a character is affected, I'd slowly start dropping major hints that something very bad is going to happen unless the character receives help. Start making the character have thrashing movements or twitches, saying things in Abyssal when they don't know Abyssal, or maybe they do. But either way, make it very clear that this is serious and needs to be taken care of right away, or there will be major repercussions for your party. Alternatively, if you're a little bit more of a mean DM than me, have a character get turned into an Abyssal Wretch, but maybe introduce an item or something else that can do a wish spell, and whether or not the players use it to cure the other player character will be up to them. Now, number 4 is going to be the Oinoloth, and Oinoloths are creatures that have changed a lot over the various editions of Dungeons & Dragons, but in 5th edition they can be found on page 251 of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Now, Oinoloths are a special type of creature of a specific daemon class, which is the Yugoloths. Oinoloths are specters of disease and are known for spreading pestilence wherever they may come across. They have been used as agents of biological warfare in the past when sieges went on too long or an opposing side felt that the army that they were up against was too strong. Wherever they go, they completely disease the land, the people, and any living creatures they come across, enemy or friend. They also have the unique ability of curing some diseases, but at an extremely high price, and often leave the resulting person after the healing a husk of what they once were. A CR 12 creature, the Oinoloth is completely immune to poisons and acid damage. They have dark vision and blind sight, and can even communicate telepathically with anything within 60 feet of them. Their greatest strength comes from their special ability, Bringers of the Plague, but also in their high-level spellcasting ability in their own right, possessing 5th level spells such as Wall of Fire, etc. Their special ability, Bringers of the Plague, allows the Oinoloth to blight an area within 30 feet of it, which lasts for 24 hours. All plants wither and die, and healing is halved to any creatures inside the radius. Additionally, anyone who enters or starts their turn in the area must make a Constitution saving throw or take necrotic damage and is poisoned by the Oinoloth's poison. This poison prevents the creature from gaining any hit points at all, and every 24 hours must make another saving throw, which if failed, causes them to reduce their max HP by 1d10, and the poison is not cured until they cast this saving throw 3 whole times. An Oinoloth would make an especially great boss for a mid-tier level party, and is perhaps the source of all the plagues and pandemics that we talked about in a previous video. Perhaps the entire campaign has led up to this moment of searching down who's been causing these different diseases, or maybe they've sought out the Oinoloth for its unique healing powers, only to realize that the price that it asks is too steep, a little too late. Number 5 is going to be the Vargouille, and Vargouilles are quite literally a severed head with wings that fly around and annoy the party. Now, Vargouilles are actually another classic creature that were originally released in the second monster manual of the original Dungeons & Dragons in 1983. In 5th edition, they can be found on page 195 of Bolo's Guide to Monsters, and are described as abyssal nuances that kind of flap around and coat the skies of the abyss. While Vargouille are numerous, they are by no means powerful, with a challenge rating of 1. They are often disregarded as weak by other demons, but have strength in their great number. They're kind of like the rats or vermin of the demon world, and they're known for lapping up the gore that occurs when one fiend kills another. They are so numerous, in fact, that often they hitch a ride with other demons, attaching themselves like ticks, and often when summoners of different planes summon a demon, they do not prepare for the added company of a Vargouille, setting the Vargouille free to whatever plane it has now been summoned to. The reason Vargouilles have made this list, however, is their greatest threat to non-demons, which comes from their ability to reproduce. Vargouilles are known for their streaks that can paralyze any creatures with fear, and then kiss those incapacitated humanoids, inflicting a fiendish curse if they do not pass a charisma save. Their charisma will slowly decrease while not in sunlight after being affected, and once their charisma reaches 2, they will die. Over this period of time, an abyssal spirit is invading the person's body, and slowly their head takes on a fiendish appearance such as fangs, tentacles, and horns. Once the humanoid reaches a charisma of 2 and dies, the victim's head tears off their body in a fountain of blood, creating a new Vargouille which will lap up its own bodily fluids before flying off to continue the process. This condition can be cured with a remove curse or greater restoration spell. Now, Vargouilles can be easily introduced into any campaigns that deals with devils or demons. And personally, I think it's best used when having an NPC be affected by the kiss. Especially if it's already been enough time that the NPCs has dropped to a very low charisma, and the player characters may think that this is just a really weird tiefling, when actually it's a diseased person whose head will explode upon talking to the party and lap up its bodily fluids in front of them, just to see how the party will react. Now, number 6 on our list is going to be the Slaad. And as an interesting fact, the Slaad were actually made during the original Dungeons & Dragons as a fan creation after that fan had a fever dream of them. In 5th edition, they are found on page 274 of the Monster Manual, and are chaotic creatures that are born of the ever-changing landscape of Limbo. Now, being beings of pure chaos, the Slaad then systematically went through Limbo and eliminated all enclaves or places of order. Now, the reason that Slaad make this list is that they have a unique ability to reproduce that relies on either infecting a host with eggs or inflicting them with a condition known as Chaos Phage. Slaad come in 4 colors: blue, red, green, and then each green can undergo lifelong transformation into one of the more powerful gray and death Slaad. Red Slaad are a CR 5 monster, which possess magic resistance and the ability to regenerate. It has a claw-like attack that can cause the host to make a Constitution saving throw that, if failed, causes it to be implanted with a minuscule Slaad egg. This Slaad egg will be carried by the host over the course of 3 months, and over this period of time, it slowly moves into the chest cavity and gestates, forming a Slaad tadpole. The host will be unaware of this until 24 hours before the Slaad will be given birth. During this 24 hours, the speed of the creature is half, and they have disadvantage on basically any roll that you can think of. If there are no disease-curing spells over the course of this 3 months, the humanoid then has a tadpole chew its way out of their chest in 1 round, murdering the host in the process. Now, blue Slaad have a less bloody, yet still pretty effective method of reproduction. When you're hit by a blue Slaad's claw attack, the target again must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or this time they're affected by something known as Chaos Phage. While affected, the target is not allowed to gain any hit points, and their HP is reduced by 10 every 24 hours, very similarly to many other creatures we've already seen on this list. When the creature is reduced to a max hit point of 0, again the target will transform into a red Slaad, or if the creature is able to cast spells higher than a level 3, a green Slaad, and again, similar to other things, only a wish spell can reverse these transformations. Now I think you're starting to see a theme here in that many of these creature-inflicted diseases cause the target to not be able to get healed, to lower their max hit points, and when they hit a low max hit points, get transformed into the creature that inflicted the condition. Now unique about this one is this kind of tadpole effect, but again, I think it's kind of unlikely that in 3 months of game time, a player character has not met a single person who can cure disease or has even been to a temple. Again, I think it's a lot more dramatic and a better use of these kind of effects to have an NPC maybe get hit by a red Slaad a couple months before meeting the party, just so you get to have this dramatic bursting killing effect that could be pretty shocking to a party, if I do say so myself. 7th and last on our list for today is going to be the Bulezau, and you're welcome to correct my pronunciation on that one. Bulezau are found on page 132 of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and they are described as a diseased manifestation of pure violence. They are described as creatures with goat-like horns and hooves that have a crusted skin with maggots and open wounds, and are used as foot soldiers in many demonic armies. Now they have rotting flesh and smell terrible to the point that any creatures within 30 feet of them must make a Constitution saving throw or take necrotic damage by simply being within their presence. And actually, borrowing some information from 4th edition's Demonomicron, we actually find out that these creatures are made from the freshly buried corpses of the female priestesses of good deities, which is probably why they smell so bad. Their ability to inflict others comes from their tail attack, which leads to the target becoming poisoned until the disease ends. Additionally, this target will get festering boils, start coughing up flies, and their skin will rot and shed off their body. Like many other diseases on this list, this works in extremely typical fashion, causing the player's character's max HP to decrease, and death if their HP decreases to 0 in this way. Now, like I said, this disease at first appearance doesn't seem like anything special and looks very similar to many of the other diseases on this list. However, we're talking about a higher level chaotic demon here. Let's get creative. Coughing up flies, you should feel the flies in your chest and start coughing up maggoty vomitus. You should describe to your players the boils and kind of disfigurement of the characters' faces to the point that they start looking like one of these creatures. If your player characters are not running to get healed immediately, you are not doing a good enough job describing this disfigurement. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this is by no means an exhaustive list of creatures who can inflict disease in Dungeons & Dragons, and I'd love to hear from you guys about any creatures you can think of with unique abilities that are not just lowering your HP or transforming you into another creature. As this is actually the end of our video on contagious creatures in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and actually it's the end of our series on disease in Dungeons & Dragons in general. As always, I will leave a link in the description to any resources I referenced in this video, and please do me a big favor and like, favorite, and subscribe, and thank you to anyone who's made it to this point in the video. If you missed my last video, you can find a link to it right over here. And I am RPGMD, writing you a prescription for all things dice, dragons, and gaming. See you guys next week.